do anything to spark this type of reaction, right? Parents should always be the ones exhibiting self-control, and kids are not in foster care because of something they did. It was something that happened to them. So I think...
Welcome to Built in Vegas, the podcast where we spotlight the stories, strategies, and resources behind the businesses that make Vegas thrive. Whether you're starting up or scaling up, you're in the right place. Brought to you by the Video Podcast Studio.
How did you get involved in the foster care system in the first place?
So my whole career has been in working with kids and families in different capacities. When I was I'm from Chicago. And so when I was in Chicago, I worked as a domestic violence counselor at a shelter and also at a hospital setting. And then I did Head Start for a while, which is federal preschool, and supporting families that, were just getting on their feet with their young kids, their 3 to 5 year old kids. I also helped open up a nonprofit science center. So that was still along the same lines of working with children and families, but in a much different capacity, like let's do fun science experiments. And so through the pandemic, when we moved from Chicago here to Vegas, I was able to keep my job for a while and still work for the science center. But then I wanted to start my life here. It became a little weird that I'm like, here in Vegas, but working my Chicago life online, and like I wasn't meeting people or getting out, and I'm a pretty social person and I like that human connection. So I started applying for the county, and I was applying to like anything and everything within family services and parks and rec because I knew I still wanted to work with families and with kids. And so when I interviewed for my role, it just was a perfect fit for me. It took the skill sets that I had of, working with kids and families, but also the marketing skills that I've built along the way to serve in my position now, which is public information coordinator. So it's like marketing, media, building community partnerships, all to help children and families that are in foster care.
Well, it's awesome that you get to do that, right? Like, I think one of my favorite things about what we get to do is when we get to work with organizations like the foster care system, Clark County Family Services, or like Empowered. It's like we're a small part of telling a story that can not only just touch the lives of other people, but also make a really big difference in the lives of individuals and the community. And I think often, I feel like the community understands there's a need for foster parents, but I don't think they understand what that need actually is. Like, how many kids are currently in the system, and how many foster parents do we currently have?
So on most days, we have around 3,000 children, and that's babies, teens, school-age children, sibling groups, children with special needs. About half of those kids are able to go and live with relatives or fictive kin, so like a neighbor or a teacher or somebody that they know and trust that can take them in while they're temporarily in foster care. But that still leaves us with about 1,500 kids on any given day that need placement in a traditionally licensed foster home. And so right now, we say we need about 250 to 300 more families than what we currently have. So that way we can really place kids in appropriate situations for them, culturally appropriate families that, might share in the same language, the same cultures, traditions. But then also we need families across the valley. We have some higher areas of removal that we really need foster families to step up in those higher areas of removal so that way kids can stay in their same neighborhoods, go to their same schools, go to their same churches, because you're already removing kids from their families, while there's an unsafe situation. Usually it's like a crisis, there's abuse, trauma, neglect going on, and kids temporarily enter foster care. The goal is that while the child is being taken care of, that the biological family is strengthening their situation so that way they eventually can welcome that child back home. So we also really need caregivers that go into fostering that have this understanding that the goal is reunification. And that's the biggest need, is families that will support reunification.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important, right? Like, we always hear the saying that, like, the youth is the next generation, right? Like, that's the future. And we have to do our part as a community to give back and be there for these kids and be there for these families, right? Like you're talking about with the reunification. It's not about taking these kids out of their homes. It's just about putting them in a safe place for a little bit while the family can kind of figure out what they need to do to have a safe place, to have a comfortable place for these kids to grow up in. And what do you feel is like maybe one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about foster care, and maybe that kind of holds them back from getting in when they shouldn't have that fear?
Well, I think there's a lot of misconceptions like about the kids and the situations. I think that one of the misconceptions is that, like, oh, these must be bad kids. And no kid is bad. Like, kids enter foster care, it is no fault of their own. They enter foster care because they have suffered through abuse, neglect, and traumatic situations that they did not deserve to be in. These kids do not do anything to spark this type of reaction, right? Parents should always be the ones exhibiting self-control, and kids are not in foster care because of something they did. It was something that happened to them. So I think that's one misconception. And then, I think the other misconception, we get a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to do your foster to adopt program. And that doesn't necessarily exist. So families will come to us and say, well, I want to adopt a baby right from the hospital. I want a safe haven baby. And that's what I want to do as a foster parent. Well, the truth of the matter is that we have a foster care program. We also have an adoption program. It's called Find My Forever. But Find My Forever kids are kids that have been in foster care and the parental rights, for whatever reason, have been terminated by the judge. And then these kids do become legally free for adoption. But the nature of it is that it takes several years through court. So the chances of you coming to Family Services and adopting a baby are very rare. You can foster babies, but again, the goal is to reunify that baby or that child or that set of siblings with their biological family. We want anybody coming into foster care to really think that I'm here to strengthen families so that way I can get these kids back home with their parents.
Yeah, when, we started our foster care journey, we definitely had a stronger intention of going in, like, oh, let's foster to adopt, right? And quickly we realized that wasn't the calling, right? Like, if you're fostering, it is the reunification. Like, we don't want to take these kids from their families. We want them to be able to be reunited with them, right, if possible. And it was such a great experience for us. Like, our family loved it. My bio son, loved it. It brought us closer together. There was challenges along the way, of course, but I think something that kind of scares people from getting into becoming a foster parent and helping out, even though they want to, because I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and it's the same comment every time. Oh, it's just going to be too hard to let them go, right? It's going to be too hard to give them back. And that's a good thing that you feel that way, because that means that you care about these kids. But in our circumstance and experience, it was hard. My wife was crying, of course. We fostered this one child for about a year, and it was difficult, and there's a lot of challenges. He was blind, he was autistic, and when he was able to go back, it was beautiful and it was great, and it hurt, but it was also this is the next best step for him. Right, this is what he needs. And the other kids, we had a few kids that were in our house just for, a week or 2 weeks as well. So it wasn't like a crazy long time. And we loved them and we played with them. And then it was like, all right, hey, they found a grandpa of yours. Like, that's awesome. You get to go live with your grandpa. You get to be with family who understands you, that knows your history, that can tell you stories about your parents as you grow up if your parents never come back into the picture. And that definitely changed that perspective for me of like, we're only doing this to adopt. And then two, like, we just want to be that resource. And I told my son when we were doing it, like, at the end of the day, like, our goal as foster family is to just give these kids a safe place to live and let them know that they're loved. Let them know that there's good people in the world that care about them, that they're worth something, until they can go back with their family. And if it so happens that they can't end up going back with their family for whatever reason, then maybe we're an option for that adoption process, or, you know, maybe we're not a good fit for that and there's a better family for that. And so I think it's good to like be scared of like loving the kids too much, but I think the system needs more families that feel that way and want to love these kids and want to take care of them. And it is going to be hard, but it's such a beautiful experience to like see them go back with the family.
Well, you probably know better than I do since you've been a foster dad, and, you know, thank you to your family for everything that you've done for the kids in your care. But if you are like to that point where it's hard to say goodbye, then you've done it the right way. You know, you've built that connection, you've nurtured that child, you've taken the steps to give them a safe home and really like love them and nurture them and help them heal. But for so many of our foster parents, and, you know, I interview caregivers on our Courageous Caregiver podcast, they tell me reunification doesn't mean goodbye forever in most cases. If you've built the relationship with the child, if you've built the relationship with the biological parent, because a lot of times that's, you know, the foster parents think that they're just signing up to care for the kids, but there's so much going on behind the scenes with the foster parents, also supporting the biological parents, helping them through their case plan, helping them, you know, build that safe home to welcome their child back in, that they've built a relationship. The foster parent and the foster family can become that extended family for the biological families then. You know, I interviewed a caregiver today who she said, you know, 22 years later, I'm still going to their birthday parties, graduations, celebrations. And it was a 22-year relationship that she's built with this child and her biological family. And I mean, that's so special, you know, to know that you're part of the reason why this family is still together. I mean, that's like the rewards are immeasurable then.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't seen that with our experience, but I can imagine that that has to be so like beautiful and touching and cool to like kind of almost then have like a nephew or a niece, right? And then their family becomes your extended family and you get to watch them grow too. Not only the children, but watch the parents grow and change. And that has to be so cool to be able to be part of that process. You know, with us, we've been able to extend our family because we did end up adopting our son. He, you know, his parents, unfortunately, I don't know how we say this. Maybe we don't even talk about this, about like adopting at all.
Well, he just became legally free. Like the parent, there's a court order. Like when families, unfortunately, there are times when biological families don't end up following the court reunification plan. They might not show up to court. They might not have the resources to move forward in their lives with it. So then a child would become legally free.
All right, I'll say something. I just don't want it to like come off weird or like focus on that part a lot, since that's not the goal, obviously. And Greg, if you can write a note for us to cut this part out, thanks. Yeah. Okay. So I remember what I was saying. So like with my son, we had the opportunity to adopt after we fostered him for about a year, and we actually have contact with his brother as well, who was adopted by a different family like a year before. And they're actually like related to the bio parents. So they have that family history. It's like the mom's cousin. And we get together with them somewhat often. They're literally at our house like, yesterday or 2 days ago. And it's cool. And it's really like, normally it's my wife and them getting together. So I'm not around it as much just because of work and traveling with hockey with our other son. But like they were coming to the house and like Kylan, our son, was just so excited to see his brother Kai. Right, and he's like Kai, and then like they come and they're just running around, and and they call each other brother because they are, and we get together. I wouldn't say monthly, as often as we can because we live pretty far apart. But it's so cool, and now we have this like extended family that we would never have, and we get these experiences and these perspectives that we would never have if we would have never fostered. And my wife and I talk about all the time, like the memories that we've created and experiences that we've had because of fostering have been like, I can't imagine my life any other way. Like it's been awesome, and it's led our life to the way that we led it. It's given opportunities to our bio son to grow, to see different perspectives, and to like almost become a little bit more humble in the experiences too, and become more nurturing, more of a caregiver as well.
That's awesome. And the sibling preservation is so important because, I think when kids are split up from their biological parents and then even their siblings, they can feel kind of lost. Like, who am I? What is my family all about? The fact that he's able to spend time with his brother and he's able to be with, the family that has the biological connections. They might even look like each other. It gives you that sense of belonging of like, who am I? This identity. So thank you for making time to make sure that he's got that connection to his brother. I think that's just so important for kids to be able to preserve whatever type of family bond that they have out there.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. And I think my wife was just saying that the other day we had got contact somehow from his sister as well. So he has like a sister who's like 2 years older. He's got like 11 siblings. And I think they live in like California and they want to meet up. So we're going to try to figure out how to go meet up with them, possibly the three of them together too.
Nice.
So it's been cool. Like, once again, it's like experiences and people we would never meet, but they're family to us now. And so the need for this is great in the community. How do businesses get involved? We know how families can get involved with fostering, but like, are there a way for businesses to get involved and to give back and help?
100%. So there's several opportunities throughout the year that we have larger events really for retention, because we can recruit for foster parents all day long. But unless we can make things easier and help our foster families get resources, it's hard to have that retention piece and keep these foster parents on board. And so we have 4 major events that we host throughout the year that takes a lot of community involvement. We just had our spring egg hunt and resource fair. So if you're a business out there that has resources, therapy offices, supportive offices, WIC offices, we had Baby's Bounty, we had libraries come out, any sort of services that have something to offer for families, they're invited to come out. We had 50 different resources at this event, and it was amazing. But we also had community partners that bring like some in-kind donations, like Easter baskets, Easter eggs. We had a great organization that said, we'll bring our little baby dinosaurs and T-Rex out for the day, because they want to give back. They want to make sure that kids in foster care are also experiencing some of these like normalized, joys of childhood that they might not have otherwise had. Some other examples of community engagement would be like our back to school event. We are partnering again for this year with F1. So they're hosting us at the F1 Grand Prix Plaza for our 3-day back to school distribution. We have groups like Canyon Ridge Church that will donate over 1,000 backpacks stuffed full with all the school supplies that the kids need. We have organizations that'll bring shoes, that'll donate like the extra classroom type things. We work with Trilogy by Shea Holmes on this. They have their team come out and stuff backpacks and bring in volunteers. If your organization doesn't have the capacity to donate, you can always volunteer. These events, they take hundreds of volunteers. We'll have our graduation event for our high school grads. We go all out because these kids have beat the odds. I mean, they really have. So for a teenager that's in foster care to graduate high school, that's a big deal. So like, for example, Raiders are coming out. They're going to do an activation, make it fun, give out some swag to our kids. But also at this graduation celebration, we will also have resources for the grads to help them with those next steps in their lives. Anybody that can do like hiring on the spot, come out and meet our grads, recruit these grads. They need jobs. They need housing. They've got to open up bank accounts. So any resource out there can come and be a part of our graduation. And then really our biggest community support event is called Give Joy. And that is our holiday toy and gift card drive. I do want to give a huge shout out to Prologis. Prologis has like 80, 90 different warehouse spaces throughout Las Vegas, and they stepped up to the plate to house us in our toy drive last year as an in-kind donation. So they let us use one of their brand new 83,000 square foot warehouses. We collect toys for a good month. We get in right after Thanksgiving. We collect toys. We sort toys. We group the toys at $50 increments, or the teens get $50 worth of gift cards. And so that takes, I think we had about 250 volunteers throughout the whole month of December to help us run this operation. And then we had about 125 donors. And some of the donors are big time donors that are, giving us checks so that way we can go out and purchase gift cards. Some are individual families that are bringing forth, a couple of gifts. But what we say is, every drop in the bucket helps fill the pail, right? I mean, when you're giving to over 3,000 kids at Christmas time, that's a lot of toys. That's a lot of gift cards. That's a lot of organization. We do a huge party at Give Joy too, where we have Santa, we have snacks, the kids can come and take pictures, they get to fill their own stockings. It is one of the most incredible experiences of my life. I've run big events through the Science Center that I mentioned before, but my events were maybe like 500 families coming through. I never thought like I would see the day that I'm seeing 3,000 kids that have suffered stories that you can't even dream of, that you would hope would never happen to anybody. And they're coming through with families that love them and care about them, and they're wrapped in community support. They're getting those toys. They're getting their gift cards. They're graduating high school. They're doing all of this because we have a community around them. Other ways that communities can get involved, organizations can also work with our recruitment team. Invite us out to your business. If you are someplace that's already serving families, like daycares, churches, schools, whatever your business might be, if you're connected with families, help us meet those families so that we can share the need for fostering, for donating, for volunteering. If you can't be a foster parent, become a CASA, right? We need more court advocates for the kids too. So there's a million ways that businesses can get involved. If you want to get started, you can go to clarkcountyfostercare.com, click on our proud partners. We've got a little interest form. Our team will get in touch with you. You start just receiving emails. We send out maybe like once every other month. We try not to spam people because, everybody's like inundated with 1,000 emails these days, but we lay it out. We will tell you the kind of needs that we have. And then the other place that you can volunteer or donate all year round is Peggy's Attic. Peggy's Attic is a donation center that is operated by Family Services. It's on our Family Services campus. So it sits like behind Child Haven in a double wide trailer. And we accept new is fantastic. We love new, but we also accept gently used clothes for kids ages 0 to 18. We accept brand new packages, and there's always a need for brand new packages of socks and brand new underwear. Baby items like formula, diapers, wipes, any sort of baby items. Sometimes we'll even take like cribs, strollers, car seats if they're not expired, toys, books. Really, we take just about everything, personal care items, anything that you would need if you're fostering. Because what Peggy's Attic does is when a child enters a foster care placement, when they're placed in a foster home or maybe a relative caregiver, the families will get a referral, one-time referral to Peggy's Attic, and we kind of give them a startup like care package with a week's worth of clothes, supplies. If the child enters foster care in the middle of the school year, we'll still stack them with a backpack and school supplies, because most of the time these kids are coming into foster care, and it's a time of crisis. They're not grabbing their blankie and their stuffy and their favorite book. They don't have time for that. They are removed from the unsafe situation. They're brought to either Child Haven or go right to a foster care placement, and these kids have nothing with them. They have very few, if any, belongings. So Peggy's Attic is our donation center that makes sure that these kids have something of their own, that they have clothes, so that way the foster parent isn't running out in the middle of the night, to make sure that the kids have something to wear to school the next day, right? We're going to make sure that our foster caregivers can get these kids started.
Well, I appreciate you coming in, Holly. And you kind of already mentioned it, but where can people find out more information? Yeah,
there's actually a lot of ways. I recommend going to our website first. It's clarkcountyfostercare.com. We're on Facebook. So if you go to Clark County Family Services on Facebook, like our page, follow us. We share lots of posts on how you can get involved. You can also Google our Foster Leader podcast and our Courageous Caregiver podcast. Those are featured on the Clark County YouTube page. So there's lots of ways to get involved, but really that clarkcountyfostercare.com is a good spot to get started.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you. And thank you for hosting us always. And thank you for everything that your family has done for the kids in your care too.
Welcome to Built in Vegas, the podcast where we spotlight the stories, strategies, and resources behind the businesses that make Vegas thrive. Whether you're starting up or scaling up, you're in the right place. Brought to you by the Video Podcast Studio.